The stars stretched endlessly across the viewing screen of the Crimson Dawn. Captain stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the ship move through the darkness of space. After 5,000 years of isolation, humanity was finally returning to the galaxy they once called home. "Captain, we're approaching the mining colony," said from the tactical station. She was young for her position, but her sharp eyes missed nothing. "Should I raise shields?" Shook his head. "No, we come in peace. Let them see we mean no harm." In the engine room below, wiped sweat from her forehead. The jump drive had worked perfectly, but she wanted to check every system twice. Humans had been gone from this part of space for so long that no one knew what they would find. The ship needed to be ready for anything. In the medical bay, Han organized his supplies. He hoped he wouldn't need them, but hope and preparation were different things. He had served in the colonial wars back in human space. He knew how quickly peace could turn to violence. The Galactic Council ruled this part of the galaxy. 17 different alien species worked together, trading and exploring. They had built a civilization that lasted 3,000 years. It was impressive, had to admit. Humanity had spent most of that time fighting itself in the dark regions beyond the outer rim. But the Council knew stories about humans, old stories, ancient stories. They called humans the Old Ones or the Precursors. According to legend, humans had seeded life across the galaxy millions of years ago. Then they vanished without explanation. Most educated aliens thought these stories were just myths, fairy tales told to children. They were about to learn the truth. "Captain, the mining colony is hailing us," said the communications officer. "They're asking us to identify ourselves." "Open a channel," said. He straightened his uniform. "This is captain of the human vessel Crimson Dawn. We come in peace seeking diplomatic contact with the Galactic Council." There was a long silence. Then the screen flickered to life. I stared back at them. The alien had gray skin, 4 arms, and large black eyes that dominated its face. Its mouth hung open in shock. "Human," the whispered. "That's impossible, you're extinct, you're myths." "We're very real," said calmly, "and we'd like to discuss trade agreements and cultural exchange. May we approach your station?" The face changed. Fear replaced shock. "Stay where you are, don't come any closer." The communication cut off. Warning lights flashed across console. "Captain, they're powering weapons," she reported. "Multiple ships launching from the colony. I count 15 fighters and 3 destroyers." His jaw tightened. "Try to contact them again. Tell them we don't want to fight." "They're not responding, sir." The first missiles appeared on the tactical display, streaking toward the Crimson Dawn. Had hoped to avoid this. He had really hoped. "Defensive measures only. Disable their weapons but don't destroy their ships." "Yes, sir." What happened next would have seemed impossible to The Crimson Dawn moved with impossible speed, dodging missiles that should have been unavoidable. Point defense lasers shot out with perfect accuracy, destroying incoming fire before it could reach the hull. When the ships got close, electromagnetic pulses shut down their weapons and engines without causing permanent damage. In less than 3 minutes, the entire attack force floated dead in space, their crews unharmed but completely helpless. "Send a message to the colony," ordered. "Tell them we could have destroyed them, but we chose mercy. Tell them we want peace." Down in the medical bay, Han prepared for casualties that never came. In the engine room, watched the power readings with satisfaction. The ship had performed perfectly. Humanity's technology had advanced significantly during their long isolation. What seemed advanced to them was standard equipment for humans. They didn't respond to his message. Instead, they sent out a priority alert to the Galactic Council. The message was simple and terrifying. "The precursors have returned. They attacked our colony with weapons we cannot match. Request immediate military assistance." The Council received the message with disbelief, then fear, then action. Emergency sessions were called. Military fleets were put on alert. Scientists dug through ancient databases trying to find any information about humans. What they found scared them more than the attack. The old records described humans as warriors without equal, builders of impossible machines, survivors of conflicts that would have destroyed any other species. Some records suggested humans had left the galaxy not because they were defeated, but because they were winning a civil war so destructive it threatened to consume everything. On the Crimson Dawn stood alone in his quarters, looking at a holographic image of Earth. The blue planet hung in space, peaceful and beautiful. Humanity had fought so hard to leave war behind, to become better, to return to the galaxy as friends and equals. And now the galaxy had greeted them with weapons fire. "Sir's voice came through the intercom. "We're receiving a transmission from the council. They want to talk." Took a deep breath. Maybe there was still hope. Maybe this was just a misunderstanding that could be resolved with words instead of weapons. "Tell them we accept. Prepare the ship to jump to their coordinates." As the Crimson Dawn prepared to leave, the disabled ships watched in silence. Their crews would tell stories of this day for the rest of their lives. They would describe the human ship that moved like a living thing, the weapons that struck with impossible precision, the mercy shown to enemies who had attacked first. The myths were real, the old ones had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. Far away in the council chamber, Speaker of the Empire studied the reports with cold calculation. He saw not myths or legends but a threat to everything he had built. The council maintained peace through a careful balance of power. If humans were as advanced as the old records claimed, that balance would shatter. Made a decision. Humanity could not be allowed to disrupt galactic stability. They would have to be dealt with one way or another. If words failed, other methods existed. He began making quiet calls to certain military commanders, setting plans in motion. Insurance, he told himself, just insurance in case diplomacy failed. But in his hearts, already knew diplomacy would fail. He would make certain of it. The Crimson Dawn jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's hopes for peace toward a council that was already preparing for war. Ambassador stepped off the shuttle onto the grand station of the Galactic Council. He was older than Captain, with gray streaking through his hair and deep lines around his eyes. He had been chosen for this mission because he understood diplomacy, because he could speak softly and find common ground. Behind him walked his aide. She was young and brilliant, carrying data pads filled with trade proposals and cultural information. She believed in this mission with her whole heart. She believed that different species could learn to live together in peace. The council station was magnificent. It floated in neutral space, belonging to no single species. Thousands of aliens moved through its corridors, representing hundreds of worlds. Markets sold goods from across the galaxy. Art from a dozen civilizations decorated the walls. It should have been a symbol of hope. Instead, felt eyes watching him everywhere he went. Whispers followed in his wake. Some aliens stared with curiosity, others with obvious fear, a few with something darker, hatred perhaps or suspicion. "Don't let it bother you," said quietly as they walked toward the council chamber. "They just need time to get used to us." Wished he shared her optimism. The council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle so that no species sat above another. Representatives from 17 civilizations waited as entered. Some looked interested. Some looked worried. Speaker of the Empire looked cold and calculating. Began his presentation. He talked about humanity's history, carefully avoiding the details of why they had left the galaxy so long ago. He offered trade agreements that would benefit everyone. He shared human art and music. He spoke of cultural exchange programs where young humans and aliens could learn from each other. "We don't want to rule," said clearly. "We don't want to conquer. We simply want to be part of the galactic community, to trade, to learn, to grow together." Many council members seemed interested. The representative from the Peaceful asked dozens of questions about human culture. The trade master from Prime was already calculating profits from new markets, but Speaker said nothing. He simply watched with his dark eyes, saying nothing. The session ended with the council agreeing to continue talks. It seemed positive, was excited as they left the chamber. "That went well," she said. "Did you see how interested they were? This is going to work." Wanted to believe her, but something felt wrong. He had been in politics too long not to recognize danger when he saw it. That evening attended a reception for council members. He made polite conversation, drank strange alien beverages, and tried to build friendships. Worked the room, her enthusiasm infectious. Several ambassadors warmed to her immediately. Late in the evening approached. "A word in private," the requested. They moved to a quiet balcony overlooking the station's central hub. Below them, thousands of beings from across the galaxy went about their lives. "You seem like a reasonable man," said, "so I will be direct. Your presence here threatens the balance we have maintained for 3,000 years. The Council works because no single species is too powerful. But humans," he paused, "the old records speak of capabilities we cannot match." "Those records are exaggerated," lied. "We're just people like anyone else." "Don't insult my intelligence," said coldly. "Your ship destroyed a battle squadron without taking damage. That's not exaggeration. That's a threat." "Only if we choose to be," replied. "We don't want conflict." "Everyone says that," said, "until they decide they do." He walked away, leaving alone with a growing sense of dread. 3 days later was walking back to his quarters after another council session. Walked beside him, talking about a breakthrough she had made with the ambassador. She was so happy, so full of hope for the future. The bomb was hidden in a maintenance panel, had paid well for the best assassins in the galaxy. The explosion should have killed everyone in the corridor. Should have. Military augments reacted before his conscious mind registered danger. Humans had developed these during the long wars in the dark. Enhanced reflexes, reinforced skeletal structure, redundant organs. They were standard for anyone who served in the military or dangerous diplomatic posts. Threw himself backward, pulling with him. The blast wave hit them hard. Pain exploded through his body as metal fragments tore into his side. But he was alive. Wasn't. She had been a step ahead of him, a step closer to the bomb. The explosion hit her directly. She died instantly, her young face frozen in surprise, never understanding why someone would do this. Crawled to her through the smoke and fire, his augments already working to repair his injuries. He held her hand as station security arrived. He held her hand and felt something break inside him. Not his body, something deeper, something that believed in peace and understanding. Security footage of the attack mysteriously vanished. No evidence pointed to anyone specific. The council offered condolences and called it a tragic accident. Speaker personally expressed his sorrow at the loss of life. Knew the truth. He had seen the cold calculation in his eyes, but without proof, what could he do? He sent a message to Captain. He sent a message to Commander Wu of Earth's forward fleet. He told them what had happened. He told them that the galaxy wasn't ready for peace. Not yet. On Earth, the High Command met in emergency session. Some advocated for immediate withdrawal. If the galaxy didn't want humans, let them have their isolation. Others demanded justice, forced death. Commander Wu stood before the assembled leaders. He was a military man, career Navy, with 3 decades of experience. He had fought in the colonial wars. He had lost friends to violence, and he was tired of it. "We came in peace," he said. "We offered friendship. They responded with murder. If we leave now, we tell the galaxy that human life is worthless, that they can kill us without consequence." "What are you suggesting?" asked the High Admiral. "Nothing yet," Wu said. We give them one more chance, one more opportunity to do the right thing. That chance came sooner than expected. 2 weeks after his death, the Empire launched a massive military strike against 3 human colonies on the edge of explored space. They didn't bother with declarations or warnings. They simply attacked. 40,000 humans died in the first hour. Men, women, children. Entire stations were destroyed. They broadcasted their justification across all council channels. Defensive action against precursor aggression threatening galactic stability. Watched the reports from his hospital bed, still healing from the assassination attempt. He watched children pulled from wreckage. He watched parents searching for their families. He watched everything he had tried to prevent. His communication device chimed. It was Commander Wu. "I'm sorry," Wu said simply. "You tried, but some people only understand one language." "I know," replied his voice hollow. "The High Command voted an hour ago," Wu said. "Unanimous decision. If the galaxy wants war, we'll give them war. I'm taking the first response fleet to Prime. We're going to show them exactly why the old ones were feared." Should have protested. Should have argued for more diplomacy, more patience. But he thought of his face, frozen in surprise. He thought of 40,000 dead humans. He thought of how the galaxy had greeted them with violence and murder. "Make them remember," he said quietly. Wu nodded grimly and ended the call. Across human space, the war machine began to move. Ships that had been dormant for years came online. Soldiers reported for duty. Factories switched to military production. Humanity had tried peace. They had offered friendship. They had extended their hand in brotherhood. The galaxy had answered with blood. Now they would learn what happens when you make humanity your enemy. The first response fleet emerged from hyperspace like ghosts materializing from darkness. 50 human warships, each one massive and bristling with weapons. They moved in perfect formation toward Prime, the military stronghold of the Empire. Commander Wu stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Righteous Fury. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. These were professionals, trained for this exact moment, had transferred from captain's ship to serve as his tactical officer. Her young face was set with grim determination. "Open a channel to Prime," Wu ordered. The showed speaker sitting on his command throne, surrounded by military advisors. They looked confident, almost smug. Behind him, through the windows, dozens of orbital defense stations dotted the space around the planet. His fleet numbered over 200 ships. Commander Wu said, "You're outnumbered 4-1. Surrender now and we'll show mercy." "Mercy?" Wu's voice was cold. "Like the mercy you showed Ambassador when you tried to murder him. Like the mercy you showed 40,000 colonists when you destroyed their homes." "We did what was necessary to maintain galactic stability," replied. "Humans are too dangerous to exist freely. You will submit to council authority or be destroyed." "No," Wu said simply. "You will surrender your command, submit to justice for war crimes, and order your empire to stand down. You have 5 minutes to comply." Laughed. It was an ugly sound. 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 seconds to realize your mistake before my fleet turns your ships into scrap metal. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Wu cut the channel he looked at. "Begin the operation." "Yes, sir, all ships weapons free. Engage at will." What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The human ships accelerated with impossible speed. Their weapons fired with precision that seemed computer-guided, but was actually just human reflexes enhanced by neural links. Kinetic rounds traveling at a fraction of light speed punched through shields like they weren't there. Energy weapons carved through hull plating, designed to withstand anything the Council species could throw at them. The fleet tried to respond, but they were fighting an enemy they didn't understand. Human ships moved in 3 dimensions while they still thought in terms of naval warfare on a flat plane. Human targeting systems could track hundreds of targets simultaneously. Human captains could process battle information and make decisions in milliseconds. In the engine room of the Righteous Fury, monitored power levels with fierce concentration. The ship's reactors ran hot, feeding energy to weapons and shields at rates that would have torn apart lesser vessels. But human engineering was built for this. Built for war on a scale the galaxy hadn't seen in millions of years. "Power at 93% and holding," she reported. "We can maintain this combat intensity for 6 more hours if needed." It wouldn't take 6 hours. It didn't even take one. 17 minutes after the battle began, 70% of the fleet was destroyed or disabled. The orbital defense stations were reduced to glowing debris. Prime's planetary shields flickered and died, their generators struck by precision strikes from human bombers. On the planet's surface, billions of citizens looked up at the sky and saw their world's defenses fall. They saw human ships dominating the orbital space that had been impregnable for 1,000 years. They felt their world shake as targeted strikes destroyed military installations with surgical precision. But Wu didn't order bombardment of civilian areas. He didn't punish the innocent for their leaders' crimes. That wasn't the human way. Not anymore. Humanity had learned that lesson in blood during their civil wars. "Sir, the orbital fortress is still active," reported. "It's heavily shielded. Our weapons are having minimal effect." "Then we go in directly," Wu said. He activated his combat armor, a sleek suit that human strength and speed. "Prepare assault shuttles. We'll take it by force." Special Operative was already suited up in the hangar bay. She led an elite strike team, 20 soldiers trained in the brutal art of ship-to-ship combat. They had fought together on a dozen missions. They trusted each other with their lives. "Listen up," she said to her team as they boarded the assault shuttle. "Rules of engagement, hostile combatants only. Anyone who surrenders gets taken prisoner, not shot. Anyone unarmed gets ignored. We're here to end this war, not massacre people." Her team nodded. They were warriors, but they had honor. That's what separated them from monsters like. The assault shuttle hit the fortress's hangar at high speed, smashing through the emergency barriers. Was first out, her rifle already tracking targets. Soldiers opened fire immediately. Human combat armor absorbed shots that would have killed unarmored people. Moved through the incoming fire like she was dancing, her enhanced reflexes reading the trajectories and finding the spaces between. Her rifle barked short, controlled bursts. Each shot found its target with lethal precision. Behind her, her team flowed into the fortress like water finding cracks. They moved as one organism, covering each other, advancing methodically. They fought hard, but they were facing the descendants of warriors who had survived the worst war in human history. In the medical bay of the Righteous Fury, hand prepared for casualties. The first wounded soldiers began arriving within minutes. A private with a shattered arm, a sergeant with burns across her back, a lieutenant who had taken 3 rounds to the chest, her armor barely stopping the shots. Han worked with swift efficiency, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. Human medical technology could save people who would have died instantly in previous eras. Nanomachines repaired tissue at the cellular level. Synthetic blood carried oxygen when natural blood was lost. Soldiers who should have died were stabilized, treated, and sent back to duty. "How many have we lost?" Han asked a nurse. 3 dead, 15 critical, 47 wounded, she replied. 3 dead. Against an enemy fleet of 200 ships and a fortress designed to be impregnable. The casualty count should have been in the hundreds, but human technology, training, and tactics had turned what should have been a costly battle into a one-sided demonstration of power. Deep in the fortress, and her team reached the command center. They had fought through 12 levels of defenders. The corridors were littered with unconscious or surrendered enemies. His team had killed only when absolutely necessary. The command center doors were sealed with emergency locks. Pulled a breaching charge from her belt and attached it to the mechanism. The explosion was shaped, directed, powerful enough to destroy the lock without harming anyone behind the door. They stormed in, stood in the center of the room holding a plasma pistol. His advisors had fled or surrendered, but he remained, defiant to the end. "You should have accepted peace," said, her rifle aimed at his head. "Ambassador offered friendship. You answered with murder." "I did what was necessary," snarled. "Humans are too dangerous to be allowed freedom." "And yet here we are," replied. "We could have destroyed your planet. We could have killed every in orbit, but we chose mercy. Because unlike you, we understand the difference between justice and genocide." Raised his pistol. His rifle fired once. The leader fell, his weapon clattering to the floor. Not dead. The shot had been precisely placed to disable, not kill. He would stand trial for his crimes. "Fortress secure," reported over the comm. "Primary target captured alive." Wu's voice came back immediately. "Excellent work. Return to the ship." As team, soldiers watched them go. These humans had destroyed their fleet, breached their fortress, and captured their leader. And they had done it all with a restraint that confused the. This wasn't how conquerors were supposed to act. Back on the Righteous Fury, Wu broadcast a message across all council channels. His voice was hard, cold, carrying the weight of 40,000 dead colonists. "Humanity did not start this war. We came in peace. We offered friendship. We were answered with assassination and massacre, but we will finish this war. To any species considering joining thee in their aggression, understand what you face. This battle lasted 17 minutes. We destroyed 70% of their fleet and captured their strongest fortress, and we did it while showing more mercy than they showed us." He paused, letting that sink in. "We don't want an empire, we don't want to rule you. But if you force us to fight, we will remind you why the old ones were feared across the galaxy. Stand down, choose peace, or share the fate of Prime." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, species watched in stunned silence. The myths were true, the legends were real, and humanity had just announced that they would not be pushed around, threatened, or attacked without consequences. In the council chamber, panic erupted. Some species immediately called for peace negotiations. Others, proud warrior races like the Thorax swarms and the Union, saw only a threat that must be destroyed before it grew stronger. 7 species formed a coalition. 7 species decided that humanity must be eliminated. They began gathering the largest military fleet in galactic history. 10,000 warships, united by fear and pride, and the determination to preserve the galactic order as they understood it. They would send this armada to Earth itself. They would end the human threat at its source. It would be the biggest mistake in galactic history. The Coalition Armada was the largest military force ever assembled in the history of the Galactic Council. 10,000 warships from 7 different species, all united by a single purpose: destroy humanity before they could threaten galactic stability. They called it Operation Final Solution. The name alone revealed their intentions. The Armada approached human space with confidence bordering on arrogance. Their intelligence said humans had perhaps 500 warships total. Even with superior technology, numbers would eventually win. 10,000 against 500 was overwhelming odds. They were about to learn that humans had been preparing for galactic war for 50,000 years. At the Neptune line, the defensive perimeter marking the edge of Earth's solar system, Commander Wu waited with the forward defense fleet. 200 ships. That was all Earth High Command had deployed to meet the Coalition threat. "Sir, the Coalition fleet is emerging from hyperspace," reported from her tactical station. "Sensors are counting. 9,800 vessels. They're forming attack formations." 200 against almost 10,000. On paper, it was suicide. But Wu wasn't worried. He had been preparing this defense for 3 months, ever since intelligence confirmed the coalition's intentions. "Engineer status on the defense grid," Wu asked. In the command center deep inside Neptune's moon Triton, monitored hundreds of systems simultaneously. Around the solar system, hidden in the orbits of planets, asteroids, and moons, hundreds of weapons platforms were coming online. The coalition didn't know they existed. Human stealth technology made them invisible to alien sensors. "All platforms ready, sir," reported. "Weapons charged, targeting computers locked, waiting for your order." "Hold until they commit," Wu said. "Let them come to us." The coalition fleet advanced, spreading out in a massive formation designed to overwhelm defenders through sheer numbers. Admiral Al, commanding from his flagship, studied the human fleet with satisfaction. Only 200 ships. This would be over quickly. "All vessels full attack speed," he ordered. "We'll sweep them aside and proceed to Earth. No mercy for the precursors." The coalition fleet accelerated. Energy readings spiked as thousands of ships charged weapons simultaneously. They expected the humans to retreat or surrender. They expected fear. Instead, Wu broadcast a single word: now. The Sol defense grid activated. Hundreds of hidden platforms revealed themselves across the solar system, massive that could throw projectiles at near-light speed. Energy cannons powered by stellar collectors that pulled energy directly from the sun. Missile batteries that could saturate entire cubic kilometers of space with explosives. Minefields that had been carefully positioned in the coalition's approach path. The first wave of mines detonated as the coalition fleet passed through them. Nuclear explosions blossomed like deadly flowers. Hundreds of ships lost shields. Dozens were destroyed outright. The surviving ships tried to adjust, but they were moving too fast, committed to their attack run. Then they opened fire. Solid slugs of tungsten carbide, each one massing several tons, punched through coalition ships like bullets through paper. One shot could destroy a light cruiser. 2 shots could cripple a battleship. And the platforms were firing hundreds of shots per minute. "All ships engage at will," Wu ordered his fleet. The 200 human warships surged forward. They didn't retreat. They didn't try to hold a defensive line. They attacked into the teeth of the coalition formation with the ferocity of cornered predators. Fingers danced across her console, coordinating targeting data between the fleet and the defense platforms. Every shot was calculated. Every movement was planned. Humans had fought themselves for thousands of years in the dark. They had learned warfare at a level the Council species couldn't comprehend. "Coalition flagship identified," reported, transmitting coordinates to all batteries. 50 platforms adjusted their aim and fired simultaneously. The coalition flagship's shields barely lasted 2 seconds under that much concentrated fire. The third volley punched through the hull, tearing the massive ship apart from the inside. Admiral Al died, without understanding how completely he had been outmatched. On Earth, billions of people watched the battle through live feeds. They saw the coalition fleet, so massive it looked like a swarm of insects. They saw their defenders, tiny by comparison. They saw the trap spring shut. In the fleet medical bay, Han worked frantically as the first casualties began arriving. The coalition was fighting back hard now, desperation replacing confidence. Human ships were taking damage. People were dying. A young pilot came in with half her face burned from an exploding console. Han stabilized her, repaired the worst of the damage, and sent her back to duty within an hour. Human medical technology could perform miracles, but it couldn't prevent all deaths. Each loss weighed on Han like a physical burden. "How many?" he asked his chief nurse. 37 dead so far, 160 wounded. The Valiant was lost with all hands. 37 dead. Against an enemy force of 10,000. It was a remarkable achievement, but Han knew each number represented a person, someone's son or daughter, someone's friend or lover. Statistics were just a way to hide from the pain. The battle raged for 3 days. The coalition fleet fought with determination born of desperation. They knew if they failed here, the war was over. They threw everything they had at the human defense. It wasn't enough. Human ships moved through the battle like sharks through water. Human weapons found weak points the coalition didn't know they had. Human commanders outfought, and outmaneuvered enemies who had been trained in military academies for decades. By the end of the first day, the coalition had lost 3,000 ships. By the end of the second day, another 2,000. By the third day, the surviving commanders realized they were fighting a battle they couldn't win. But some refused to surrender. Pride, honor, fear of punishment back home, all drove them to keep fighting. The thorax swarms in particular fought with suicidal determination, throwing their ships at human positions until they were all destroyed. Special Operative led a boarding party against the coalition's command carrier, a massive vessel that still coordinated what remained of the enemy fleet. Her team fought through corridors filled with desperate soldiers who knew they were losing but refused to quit. "They're not surrendering," one of her soldiers reported. "Every compartment is defended." "Then we go through them," replied, but she felt sick about it. These weren't evil people like. They were soldiers following orders, fighting for what they believed was right. In another universe, she and they might have been allies. But in this universe, they were enemies. The fighting inside the command carrier was brutal. Close quarters combat with rifles, knives, and bare hands. His team pushed forward meter by meter, taking casualties but never stopping. The coalition soldiers fought well, but they were fighting the descendants of warriors who had survived the worst war in human history. Finally reached the bridge. Coalition Fleet Marshal stood waiting, his weapon already on the ground. His crew was dead or unconscious around him. He looked at with something like respect in his alien eyes. "We thought we were defending the galaxy," he said quietly. "We thought we were the heroes." "So did we," replied. "Funny how war works." She took him prisoner and called for extraction. As her team, she looked at the bodies in the corridors. Young soldiers, barely adults, dead because old leaders had chosen pride over peace. "What a waste," she whispered. Back on the Righteous Fury, Wu received the report that Marshall was captured. The coalition fleet was broken, 7,000 ships destroyed, 2,000 surrendered, 1,000 fleeing in all directions. It was over. Captain, who had observed the battle from his ship, the Crimson Dawn, was given the honor of broadcasting the final message. He appeared on screens across the galaxy, his face tired but determined. "This war began because the galaxy feared us," he said. "You saw the legends and myths and believed we were monsters who would conquer and destroy. So you tried to destroy us first. You murdered our ambassador's aide. You massacred 40,000 colonists. You sent 10,000 warships to eliminate us." He paused, letting the galaxy see the burning wrecks floating around Neptune. "But here's the truth you never understood. Humans left the galaxy not because we were defeated, but because we nearly destroyed ourselves in a civil war so terrible it almost consumed everything. We went into isolation to heal, to change, to become better than the monsters we had been. We came back hoping you would accept us as friends and equals." Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was harder. "You forced us to become the warriors from your legends. You gave us no choice. But even now, even after everything you've done, we show mercy. Your surviving ships will be allowed to return home. Your prisoners will be treated with dignity and repatriated after standing trial for war crimes. We could destroy you. We could take revenge for our dead, but we won't." Leaned forward, staring into the camera. "Because unlike you, we learned from our mistakes. We understand that today's enemy might be tomorrow's friend. We know that peace is built through understanding, not fear. The war is over. Now we build the peace. And if you're wise, you'll help us build it instead of forcing us to fight you again." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, beings watched in stunned silence. The humans had won, against impossible odds with minimal casualties, showing mercy even to those who had tried to genocide them. The myths were real, the legends were true, and humanity had proven they were both terrible and noble, capable of great destruction but choosing mercy when they could have chosen revenge. In the council chamber, the remaining members began discussing peace terms. This time, there would be no assassinations, no secret plots, no pride-driven attacks. This time, they would listen, because humanity had taught them a lesson the galaxy would never forget. Never mistake mercy for weakness, and never force peaceful people to become warriors. They had learned it the hard way. 6 months after the Battle of Neptune, Ambassador walked through the council station once more. This time, no one whispered behind his back. No one looked at him with hatred or fear. Instead, aliens stepped aside respectfully. Some even nodded in greeting. The scars on his side from the assassination attempt had healed, but the scars inside ran deeper. He still saw his face in his dreams, frozen in surprise as the explosion took her life. He still felt the weight of 40,000 colonists who had died because he failed to prevent the war. But he was here to finish what he had started, peace. Real peace, built on respect rather than fear. The council chamber was packed. Not just the 17 original species, but representatives from hundreds of worlds. Everyone wanted to witness this historic moment. The humans were joining the Galactic Council, and the terms of the treaty would reshape the galaxy. Speaker's empty seat was a reminder of how they got here. He was in prison, serving a life sentence for war crimes. His empire had been dissolved, its territories given independence. The people had voted for new leaders who promised cooperation instead of aggression. Took his place at the human delegation seat. Captain sat beside him along with Commander Wu, and Han were in the gallery, watching history unfold. The new council speaker, a peaceful named Al, began the proceedings. "We gather today to formally end the war and welcome humanity to the Galactic Council. The terms have been negotiated over 6 months. All parties have agreed. But before we vote, I believe humans deserve to speak." He had prepared a speech, but now, looking at all these alien faces, he set his notes aside and spoke from the heart. 6 months ago, we fought a war that killed thousands on both sides. My people were angry. We were hurt. We had come in peace and been answered with violence. Some humans wanted revenge. They wanted to conquer, to punish, to make you pay for every drop of human blood that was spilled. He paused, looking around the chamber. But that's not who we are, not anymore. Yes, humans are warriors. We proved that at Prime and Neptune. We showed you that legends can be real, but being able to destroy doesn't mean we should. Being powerful doesn't mean we should rule. Thought of how much she had believed in this moment. We want something harder than conquest. We want cooperation. We want to trade goods and ideas. We want our children to grow up knowing aliens as friends, not enemies. We want to explore the galaxy together, discovering new worlds and new civilizations side by side. His voice grew stronger. The terms of this treaty are harsh. We know that. Your species will pay reparations for the colonies you destroyed. Your military forces will be reduced. You'll surrender territorial claims that you've held for centuries. But understand why. Not because we want to punish you, but because we want to ensure this never happens again. We want you to choose peace not from fear, but from understanding that peace is better. Sat down. The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then the representative stood and began to applaud. Slowly, others joined. Within moments, the entire chamber was applauding, not for human military might, not for their technology, but for their restraint, their mercy, their vision of a better future. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was now part of the Galactic Council, with full voting rights and a permanent seat. The treaty was signed. The war was officially over. After the ceremony, found himself on the same balcony where had threatened him months ago. He looked out at the station, at thousands of beings from across the galaxy going about their lives. Humans walked among them now, no longer objects of fear but members of the community. She would have loved this, a voice said behind him. Turn to see Captain. The younger man looked older now, aged by war and responsibility. Believed in this, agreed. She believed different species could work together. I just wish she could have seen it. She did see it, said. She saw it in her dreams and her hopes. We're just making those dreams real. They stood in silence, watching the galaxy move around them. In the medical district of the station, Han treated patients from a dozen species. The war had wounded more than just bodies. People needed healing, both physical and mental. Han did what he could, using human medical technology to help aliens who had been enemies just months ago. A young soldier came in, missing an arm lost at the Battle of Neptune. Han fitted him with a prosthetic, using human technology far beyond what they had available. Why help me? The soldier asked. I fought against you. I tried to kill humans. Because the war is over, Han replied simply, and because you deserve a chance to live a full life. Revenge won't bring back the dead, but helping you might prevent future deaths. The soldier left with tears in his eyes and a working arm. Small moments like that, Han believed, would do more to build peace than any treaty. Worked with alien engineers, sharing human technology in carefully controlled ways. Some secrets they kept. Human military technology wouldn't be shared, not yet, maybe never. But civilian technology, ways to generate clean energy, medical advances, agricultural improvements, all of that humanity offered freely. You're giving away your advantages, one alien engineer said, confused. We're investing in stability, replied. Rich, healthy civilizations don't start wars, they trade and cooperate. The more we help you prosper, the more we all prosper. It was a lesson humanity had learned the hard way during their long isolation. They had nearly destroyed themselves fighting over resources. Then they learned to cooperate, to share, to build together. The result was a civilization powerful enough to defend itself, but wise enough to choose peace when possible. Special operative walked through a marketplace on the council station. She was off duty, wearing civilian clothes, just another person shopping for dinner. She stopped at a food stall run by a merchant. The merchant looked at her, recognition dawning. You were at the battle. I saw footage of you boarding the command carrier. Tensed, ready for trouble, but the merchant just smiled. My cousin was on that ship. You could have killed everyone. Instead, you showed mercy. He came home to his family because of that, thank you. Didn't know what to say. She had just been doing her job, following rules of engagement. But to this merchant, she was the reason his cousin was alive. We're not monsters, she said finally. We're just people trying to do the right thing. I know that now, the merchant said. I wish we had known it sooner. He refused to take payment for the food he gave her, walked away feeling strange. She was a soldier. She was trained to fight, to kill when necessary. But maybe, just maybe, preventing war was a greater victory than winning one. Commander Wu stood before a memorial wall on Earth, looking at names carved in stone. 347 humans had died in the war. Not many, considering the scale of the conflict. But each name represented a life cut short, dreams left unfulfilled. Sir, a voice said. He turned to see a woman in civilian clothes. Her eyes were red from crying. You commanded the fleet. You gave the orders that killed my son. Wu braced himself. He had met many families of the fallen. Some thanked him. Some blamed him. Both reactions were understandable. Lieutenant Park was on the Valiant, the woman continued. He was 23. He loved music and wanted to be an engineer. He was my only child. I'm sorry, Wu said, and meant it with everything he had. Your son died protecting Earth and everything we believe in. That doesn't make his loss easier, but I hope it means something." The woman looked at him for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she hugged him. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for winning. Thank you for making sure he didn't die for nothing. Just promise me you'll try to prevent another war. Promise me no more mothers have to lose their sons." "I promise," Wu said, his voice thick with emotion. "I swear on your son's memory, I will do everything in my power to make sure this never happens again." The woman left and Wu stood alone before the memorial. 347 names. He had memorized them all. Each one was a weight he would carry for the rest of his life. 1 year after the war ended, the first joint human-alien exploration mission launched. Captain commanded the expedition, with crew members from 15 different species. They would explore the unknown regions beyond Council space, mapping new worlds and seeking new civilizations. Ambassador returned to his duties, working to strengthen the bonds between humans and aliens. Trade flourished. Cultural exchanges brought human and alien students together. Art and music crossed species boundaries. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy learned that humans were neither gods nor demons, just people trying to find their place in the universe. The scars remained. Some species still feared humans. Some humans still distrusted aliens. The thorax swarms had fought to the last ship at Neptune, and relations with their remained tense. The Union had surrendered but nursed wounded pride. Peace was fragile. It required constant effort, constant communication, constant willingness to choose understanding over fear. But it was possible. The war had proven that different species could clash with terrible violence. The peace proved they could also work together, build together, grow together. In the council chamber, addressed the assembly one last time before rotating out of his ambassadorial position. A wise human once said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We, humans and aliens together, are the good people. We have the power to choose war or peace, hatred or understanding, fear or hope. For millions of years, you told stories about humans. Now we're writing new stories together. Stories of cooperation, of friendship, of a galaxy united not by force but by choice. He looked around the chamber at the representatives of hundreds of worlds. The age of legends has ended. The age of partnership has begun. We have a long road ahead, building trust, healing wounds, creating a future where all species can thrive. But if we can survive a war none of us wanted, we can build a peace all of us need. That's my hope. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not weapons or technology, but hope that tomorrow can be better than today. The chamber erupted in applause. Not polite applause, but genuine, heartfelt approval. The galaxy had feared the return of the old ones. Instead, they gained partners, allies, friends. Outside, the stars shone brightly. Somewhere out there, Captain and his mixed crew were exploring unknown space. Somewhere, Han was healing the sick, was building better technology, was training the next generation of peacekeepers. Wu was ensuring the fleet stayed ready to defend but never eager to attack. And across 1,000 worlds, humans and aliens lived together, worked together, dreamed together. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had changed it, not through conquest but through courage. The courage to show mercy. The courage to choose peace. The courage to believe that yesterday's enemies could become tomorrow's friends. The myths were real. The legends were true. And humanity had proven that the greatest power wasn't the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to build instead. The age of humanity had truly begun.